Imagine walking into a bookstore and seeing your book stacked neatly on the shelf. Now, most self-publishers think this is completely impossible, but it is not if you know how the system works. Now, as I prep for my own first nonfiction book launch, this is going to be the first nonfiction book that I publish with my own name attached to it. I have been deep diving into how bookstore distribution really works, so I thought I'd share with you what I've learned so far. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about distribution, consignment, and then what actually happens after a bookstore says yes. Plus, I'm going to share the one thing that completely surprised me about getting your book onto their shelves. First thing I learned, and this really should come as no surprise, is that your book has to look and feel like a professionally published book. So this really isn't the place for, Canva cover templates. The must-haves really are a custom designed cover, professional interior formatting, your own ISBN, trim size, genre style, and pricing that match bookstore standards. You don't want to scrimp out here. You want to hire a professional copy editor and a book designer unless you are an actual pro yourself. Second thing I learned is that you need the right distributor. So generally speaking, bookstores require two things in order to say yes for your book. So first, they want that 55% wholesale discount. So when they're buying books from a distributor, that's kind of the industry standard. They are looking for books where they get that 55% wholesale discount. The other thing they're looking for is returnability within 90 days. So if a book doesn't sell, they want the option of sending that book straight back. Now, Amazon KDP does not allow returns and it doesn't offer that discount. So bookstores probably aren't going to touch your book if you've published it through KDP, even if you've made it available through expanded distribution. Instead, publish through Ingram Spark, or you can do both. But publishing through Ingram Spark is going to plug your book into the Ingram network. This is the industry's go-to wholesaler. This is where you can set up that wholesale discount, and this is where your book can be made available to tens of thousands of retailers worldwide. But remember, available does not mean automatically stocked. Chances of your book being picked up by any of these bookstores is actually pretty darn slim, which leads me to my next point, and that is bookstores don't discover you, you have to pitch them. So bookstores only stock books that they know about. Usually they know about a book through a rep or a direct contact with the author or the publisher. So your best bet is to actually approach local indie bookstores. So this is what to do. Create a one-page sell sheet. So this is all of your book information, your ISBN, your distributor, pricing, and your short pitch about the books. Visit or call local indie bookstores and ask who handles the book buying. Speak to that person specifically. And if you have any awards, any accolades, press, sales proof to boost your odds, use it. Be polite, of course, professional, and be prepared to leave a copy of your book behind. Now, here's the thing that really surprised me. Even if a bookstore says yes, be prepared for them to only order 1 to 2 copies. I don't know why, I just imagine bookstores buying books in boxes, in crates. But now that I think about it, it does kind of make sense. When you're walking around, Indigo or Barnes & Noble or wherever, when you're in those stacks, you really usually only see 1, 2, or 3 copies of a book on the shelf, right? So even knowing that, it was still kind of a shock that they would only order like 1 or 2. Another thing, don't expect for your book to be placed on one of those front tables. It's likely going to be spine out, on a shelf, back in the shelves with all of those other books. Now, I would love to know if you are a self-publisher who has managed to get your book into a bookstore, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what your experience was. Like I said at the beginning, I haven't actually done this yet. This is all just based on the research that I've been collecting. So if I'm missing anything, please let me know, drop a comment. Now, the next thing I learned is that getting in is really just the start. Now you have to do some marketing. So important to remember here, bookstores sell your book, but they do not market it. These are two very distinct things. All the bookstore is really gonna do is give your book 90 days to prove itself so they can return them before the time is up. So if it doesn't sell, it gets returned, or in some cases even destroyed. Now, to avoid this fate, it's kind of up to you to drive foot traffic to that store. So all the people you have in your network, whether it's family, friends, followers, tell them where the book is, ask them to go buy it there. You can offer to do an event, a signing, local press if you can get it, encourage people to request the book at specific bookstores. You are definitely gonna have to work at it just so you can get those sales of those, 1 or 2 books that you've got in there. Now, if you're looking for ways to market your book and more importantly, market yourself, using your book to increase your credibility and authority, you can download my free guide. It's called the Visibility Multiplier, and inside you're going to find 75 ways to use a short book to blow up your authority. These are the same strategies that top thought leaders use to land stages, press, and high-ticket clients without actually writing a full-length 300-page magnum opus. You can find a link to that down in the description below. Now, the next thing I learned is that consignment and events, these are power moves when you're trying to get your book into a bookstore. Now, approaching indie bookstores and asking them to order your book wholesale through Ingram Spark isn't the only option. You can actually sell your author copies that you have ordered directly from Ingram Spark directly to the bookstore at the 55% wholesale discount with a promise to buy back any unsold copies after 90 days. Or you can ask about carrying your book on consignment. So if you're unfamiliar with the concept of consignment, they use this a lot in clothing stores. It's when you give them the books and then they pay you only if and when the books sell. Now, this can be very attractive to a bookstore because it means that they're taking on no financial risk whatsoever. They're not paying for anything up front and they only need to pay you if and when your book sells. And if you get your book in there through any of those ways, consider hosting a signing at the store. Bring in your own audience, your own network. This is a great way to introduce other people to the bookstore, get more traffic there, and build some goodwill. That leads me to my final tip here. Support your local indie bookstore. If you want people to come into that store and buy your book at your local bookstore, support the bookstore by buying other people's books from there as well. Don't be that author who walks in and says, "Hi, I just wrote a book, can you sell it?" Be someone that supports that bookstore's business, whether or not they decide to carry your book. Now, when you're selling your book online, pretty much the most important thing you can do is get as many book reviews as possible. So watch this video next to see how you can get tons of legitimate reviews fast. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for being here. See you next week.